What is up, everybody? We are back at home with the new baby, so things are going pretty well. A little bit chaotic, but all things good. But that's not why you're here today. You're here today because it's Monday, so we have another Monday metagame update for you. And yeah, it's actually a pretty interesting one, so let's get into it. All right, starting us off in standard as per usual. We still see that the old decks are still quite good. Mono white, mono red, very good. Esper Legends now, even in best of one, doing very, very well. I think it's just they're very solid decks, and the new decks are not quite finely tuned enough to take the top spots, but we do see some decks that are doing quite well, so we're going to take a look at those. And then another interesting thing is the mono red deck really did get a lot of new cards, which pushed it up definitely into tier 1. It is very good now, very solid. And so we'll have to see if the meta can adapt from that or not. And yeah, I took a look at the Esper Legends deck. This one on Untapped at GG doesn't really have any new cards, though I did see some people were playing Lord Skitter in their Esper Legends decks. So that might be maybe something that's coming or people are trying out. But the OG Esper Legends deck still very solid, still very good, hard to beat. So yeah, it's still number one. And then the mono red aggro here, as I mentioned, we got some Charming Scoundrels, we've got some Godric here, and of course Monstrous Rage, one of the really good pickups from the new set. And some people are even trying this one, the Witchstalker Frenzy, which, as long as you're aggressive, it is a pretty good removal spell. So, makes sense to be in mono red. All right, so that's it for standard best of one. If we look at best of three, still it's very similar. Esper Legends, mono red, and mono white are all top 3 spots in best of three. The new decks are down here in tier 2 with the 4-color control. That's kind of the new one that has been popular recently. Dimir midrange, not new, but got a few new cards from the set in there. And then Golgari midrange, new deck. And this is interesting. Still pretty low win rate for now, but Grixis midrange making a comeback because of Decadent Dragon. So that's interesting to see, and we're going to take a look at that in just a second. So first off, 4-color control. So this is the deck that people are playing with. I think this is the one, or at least there's a version of this one with Bramble, the little 2-mana dork that has an adventure that basically cascades. So I guess this is not that deck. This is a different version of the deck. So this is the domain-based ramp kind of deck. It got up the beanstalk, it looks like, and because it's casting things like Ashiok and Archangel of Wrath and Herd Migration. Maybe it's, and I guess Leyline is the biggest one. So up the beanstalk plus Leyline Binding means you draw a free card when you cast your Binding for 1 mana. So I guess that's the big payoff. So interesting, this is actually a different deck than the one that's been popular, but up the beanstalk, kind of makes sense. Energize as well, draws you cards, so cool. Even these kind of solid decks are getting a few pickups from the new set. All right, and then the Grixis one, it was so crazy, I had to look at it. It doesn't look like it's doing super great here, but I definitely think there's a shell for this dragon. The adventure side is very good. The dragon side is very good. Both sides together are just a really good card. And this one is playing with a lot of dragons. Oh, I think I saw Andrew Cuneo playing a version of this deck with the Invasion of Tarkir battle. But this one doesn't seem to have that. So maybe that's something to add. Invasion of Tarkir if you're going to be running this many dragons. And Chandra also pretty good. So interesting. I think there's a place here. This person's list is probably not the best one, so we'll have to see if we can make a better version in the future. All right, and then historic. Nothing really changed in historic though. One thing I noticed was the which one was it? Oh no, it's not here. It's gonna be later. You'll see it later. But nothing really changed in Historic. A few people added a few new cards to some decks, but overall, Historic is still the same. I think people are just playing more Standard while it's fresh, and then once it gets stale, they'll probably move to Historic. All right, Alchemy. Not a lot of people playing Alchemy, but one of the top decks, the Mono Black deck, is now playing Beseech. Beseech the Mirror to get their Shieldred, to get their other things, and they're added Lord Skitter as well for Graveyard Hate, and just because it's a value card. And then, yeah, the End is another card that's seen a lot of play. Very good removal that can kind of stop combo decks a bit. So pretty solid inclusion in a lot of these control-y decks, or even just black decks in general. So, yep, Mono Black got even more insane, I guess I would say. We also had a couple big tournaments coming this last weekend, and the top 3 spots were taken down by Esper Midrange. This is the one I mentioned with Lord Skitter in here, and the rest of it's pretty normal. Shieldred, Denick, Rafine, Wandering Emperor, Fairy Mastermind. So nothing too special there, but Lord Skitter is the new include. Golgari Midrange, the new deck with Mosswood Dread Knight, Blossoming Turtle, Graveyard Trespasser, Glissa, Lord Skitter, and a few other ones that we don't see a lot of play, like Liberator, Liliana, and Nissa don't always see play in this deck. So yeah, Golgari, definitely very strong right now. And the last one, also no surprise, Mono Red, which we mentioned got, Godric, it got the Monstrous Rage, it got, I guess this one's not playing the... Oh no, it is. Charming Scoundrel, yeah. So Charming Scoundrel, Godric, Monstrous Rage are the new cards in Mono Red, and yeah, it's doing well. Okay, and then the other really big tournament, this one's the Pizza Box Open. 5-color ramp got first spot. This was the... Is this the one? Is this the one with Bramble something? Little 2-mana dork? No, it's not. This is, again, the Beanstalk version. Okay. Beanstalk version, 5-color domain ramp. Took down first place on this one. Maybe that's what spurred the popularity. Yeah, pretty cool. Golgari Midrange, again, number 2. Pretty similar list, to be honest, to the other tournament. Yeah, actually almost identical. And then third place is Orzhov Midrange. And this is pretty old deck, and it looks like pretty much there were no new cards in here, from what I could tell. Maybe a couple sideboard cards. No. No sideboard cards. Literally no new cards. Took third place. Oh, I'm sorry. I lied. There's one new card. Virtue of Loyalty. And that's it. So, yeah, that's pretty crazy. So, looks like your old deck, Orzhov deck, still very good as well. At least it can take down a tournament every once in a while. All right, that's it for the tournaments. So we're seeing some new decks, Ramp, Golgari picking up steam, and people are changing up the old decks a little bit with the new cards. So it definitely had an impact for sure. All right, Twitter. So in Twitter, here is the Ramp. This is the Ramp deck. Gruul, Ramp, Bramble Familiar. Actually, this is yet another version of the Ramp deck. Okay. Yeah, I keep calling it wrong, but Bramble Familiar, very powerful card. You can do some crazy things, kind of like you could do with Tibble with it because of the adventure side. And if you get to cast the adventure side of it, it can grab Italy or the Tyrannus Rex or the Gruff Triplets or something and put them onto the battlefield for you. So very powerful effect, and good in a ramp style deck, which wants to play something really powerful at 7 mana or 6 mana. All right, so that is that one. And obviously this person got to Mythic, very good win rate. This other deck, they got top 64 in a big tournament with this Boros deck with Pia Nalar. That's another card that was performing well in the early access event. So Pia Nalar also very good with these mono white like token generator effects, and a lot of these cards which draw via exile triggers your Pia Nalar and stuff like that. So yeah, pretty cool. it's seen play, maybe good enough at some point if it can get tuned a little bit more. Brew Lab here had big success with this blue-white control deck. Not a huge surprise there, but the Hornlock Whale is quite good because of its early game removal and late game threat. Fits very well into a blue-white shell. So yeah, not a whole lot of surprise there. And then this is a different blue-white deck by Noriyuki Mori, a really well-known Japanese player who is very good. And this is kind of like a tempo control deck. And Virtue of Loyalty is instant speed to create a 2/2. So you can hold that up and hold up your counter spells. Fairy Mastermind, Flash. So you have a lot of flash, instant speed things and ways to kind of get around the fact that the opponent maybe doesn't play into your counter spells or something like that. So very cool. That one's very cool. And then keep going on. We've got I believe, an Esper deck. Yeah, this one is using the end to get rid of the opponent's threats. Siphon Insight, Void Rend. Void Rend very good right now. Wandering Emperor also still very good. So just a pretty much straight up control shell it looks like. But making use of the new card, the end, especially to kind of thwart the opponent's plans and get rid of their big threats. It's always good to get rid of Shieldred. Alrighty, and then Ash Lizzle here, again with the cool brews. He's playing Anvil. This is similar to one that we built as well on my channel. And Artifact Anvil stuff with Sir Ginger and Ginger Brute. And then Agatha's Cauldron, another way to make use of a lot of the creatures that have activated abilities or effects that die. And so you can sack them and then get tokens and counters and things like and their abilities later. So yeah, and I guess, you know, if you get to put your Blood Tither ability on somebody else, like a Ginger Brute, you're going to be pretty happy about that. So makes sense. Pretty cool. All right, and then the last deck we got for you. This is the historic one. This is the one I mentioned earlier. Historic Wizards. Basically the same list, but Monstrous Rage fits in perfectly, and the Elusive Otter also fits in here well. Though I think the Monstrous Rage is the biggest pickup for this deck. They needed kind of the 1 mana pump spells that have a lasting effect, and yeah, so it's very good. It's good in mono red. It's also good in historic Izzet Wizards. So if you like that, this is the new version of the deck. All right, that is it for today. So yeah, a lot of spicy new brews. Playing standard, at least I haven't got to play as much as I wanted because of the baby and everything, but it hasn't seemed that different to me. I see a lot of the same old decks. So yeah, I'm hoping as the new decks kind of get more tuned that they'll kind of see a little bit more play. But as you could see on Untapped, they're sitting at a pretty reasonable win rate, kind of in tier 2, but above 55% win rate. So yeah, pretty good. So overall, happy that WoE had an impact. Sad that we didn't rotate still because the old annoying decks are still there. Shieldred's still there. Dahlia still there. So those things I'm sad. The rest I'm happy. So yeah, that's going to be it for today. Go out there, have some fun. Until next time, see ya.